Well, hello everybody. It's Ashley from Lovely Commotion. Thanks for joining me this Sunday. I am super excited because I am sharing with you today something new that I created that I'm super excited to put into my classroom, and that is fine motor boxes. So I'm going to show you around, but first, I wanted to let you know why I decided to create these. So we all know in early education that fine motor skills are important. They're going to use those little muscles for so many great things in big kid school, right? That's sometimes what we call it, is big kid school. But while we know this fine motor skills are so important, I was having a hard time making sure that all of my students were getting the practice that they need. Now, we are a play-based classroom, and I absolutely love that. And I know that in all of my centers, there are opportunities for some great fine motor work. Like, I'm sure of that. But I also have noticed over the years how I do have some kiddos who just won't leave their favorite center, right? Whether that be the block center or the dramatic play center or whatever might fancy them. And so they aren't getting into the art center and using the scissors. They are not getting into the writing center and using our little golf pencils, right? Maybe they aren't getting into the block center and using like the snap cubes. So while I 100% believe that children should have free choice when they play, I was also running into this kind of problem with noticing my students. Some of them were not having that fine motor um, strength that I was hoping that they would have. Some of them were struggling with cutting when we would do cutting in small group or for assessments. And so I knew that while they were building some of those fine motor muscles, they weren't practicing using all the different types of tools. So that is why I decided to come up with a way where kids can pretty much just have a self-contained fine motor activity, and I could get it out during small group. I could get it out during center time. If they really like gravitate towards these, then I can put them out. They're self-contained, so students can grab them and take them if they want to. I could even send them home, maybe after COVID at some point, and they can do it at home with their families, just some extra practice. I mean, there's tons of ways to use these, but I knew that I needed something that didn't require me to constantly be going and finding the materials that we need for that one specific thing. And so something I like to do that helps me as an educator and just keeps kind of all my ducks in a row is to kind of prep it all up front and then kind of change out pieces here and there. And so that's what this was. And I was walking down the aisle at Michael's a while back, and I was in the organizational aisle, which I know that's a favorite of all of us, right? And I saw this like rainbow goodness of these just little boxes. Here, let me show them to you. And I just knew that I had to have them. And so I was there, and this was there. Look, I was trying to rip off the sticker, but it wouldn't come all the way off. Look at this. This is amazing. Sorry, there's a glare. There is 16 boxes in here, and then they all fit in here. So I knew like I could easily store this. I could easily move this around if I needed to. I could easily pick and choose which activities I wanted students to work on. And so I was like, okay, this will help it be self-contained. Each little box has their own task. And I knew it would be a time saver for me once I got them all put together. So what I did was I chose 16 different activities, right? Fine motor activities. And then I also kind of tied them to certain themes. So I have like a holiday one finished, I have a winter one finished, and a Valentine's one day finished. So I can kind of keep the interest up by changing out the theme. And so I figured that would be a good way to be able to keep the base of these fine motor boxes, but be able to change them out a little bit. And so the 16 things that children will do, I'm going to show you each box and show you what's in it so that if you maybe want to create your own boxes, you can kind of see what worked for me and materials that I used and what actually fits in the boxes. And I also have, of course, these task cards available for you if that is something you're interested in. But let me go ahead and get started in showing you these boxes. So I'm going to switch my camera up. Bear with me. I've never had to do this before. So I'm hoping that it will go okay. So let me switch us up. Okay. So there we are. I'm going to move my mic and grab a box. Okay, so this is just one of the boxes, right? And you can see the lid to my big tub over here. This one I went ahead and glued on, or not glued, excuse me, taped on a little label here. This one is cutting lines so that when it's sticking in to the whole organizer, I can see which one this is easily. And then when we open it up, the inside has the instruction card. So this is cutting lines, and I tried to add pictures the best that I could so that if children were using these more independently, then they could kind of see what they're supposed to do. So choose a card, use the scissors to cut on the lines. And so I only had so many scissors. When I get to school, I'm going to add scissors to all my cutting ones. But so this will have a pair of kid scissors, and then there's different lines that they can cut on. This one is just a pretty simple line. It's a tree, and I just made copies of these. So they are just cut apart copies that I made, and that I kept the original so that if I run low, I can just make some more copies and stick them in here. And then I'm going to let them choose, like if they want to take it home, that's fine. If they don't, that's fine too. They can just either recycle or even use this maybe in their art, whatever they would like to do with it. But there are several different just cutting on the line to the object. So pretty simple, but it's all confined in its own box. And children could even either grab it themselves, or I could maybe, if I know that I've got a kiddo that is struggling a little bit with cutting, then I could pull the cutting boxes. So this is one of the cutting boxes. There's, I believe, 4. So let me grab another cutting box for you. Oh, let's do this one. So this one is scissor snipping. And this would be one of the very first ones that I would grab if I have a newer cutter. Open this one up for you. Again, the instruction on the inside, my laminator tried to eat this one, but I didn't feel like redoing it, so it's kind of bumpy. Again, I would go ahead and put in the kids' scissors. I will do that once I get to school. And there's just little pictures, and they are just going to snip, and it's just going to take about one snip of the little kid scissors to get to the picture. And so I'm encouraging them to stay on the gray line. So super simple, but this is where I would start with my friends that need scissor help. And then another great one is cutting strips. So here are those cutting strips box. Here's the scissors. A pair of scissors in each one is really all we need. And then these just have strips of different pictures on them, and they're cutting them apart. And again, I may, if they enjoy the cutting, they can use it to maybe go to the art center and glue them on. If they just want to throw them in the recycling, that's fine too. But really the goal here is just practicing on staying on the lines when they're cutting. So that's the third cutting one. And then I also moved to cutting shapes. So this one is cutting shapes, and these shapes are winter themed as well. And so these will have scissors with them as well, but there's several, I put in several shapes to choose from. So like there's a square, a circle, a triangle with some snowballs, and I added in the line of where they need to start, because sometimes that's very hard for children to go, well, I'm supposed to get to that circle in the middle, but how am I going to get there? And so I like to make sure that there's a line there so they know cut down here, and then we're going to go on the black. and an oval, and there's just some repeats in there. And so again, these are the winter themed ones. So when I change it out for Valentine's Day, I will have just different things for them to cut, so it will feel more like a new activity, even though I am not changing out this label here, and I'm not changing out the label on the inside. And for this one, I'm not changing out the scissors. So really all I'm changing out is the cards themselves. So those are the cutting ones I have. Let's also look at some of the writing. So I have a pre-writing one here. And this one I went ahead and decided that I was going to, actually, I don't want to show you this one yet. I'm sorry. I would like to show you, let's do tracing instead. Okay. So inside there is some cards here, and I went ahead and laminated these, and I'm using these small dry erase markers that I got off of Amazon. I got a big pack of them. I have them right here. I can show them to you. They're not the best thing ever. I mean, they're certainly not, you know, big brand expo or anything, but they will do the trick, and there's quite a few in there so that when they accidentally get the caps left off them, or, you know, get lost, then I will have some extras. But basically, I went ahead and laminated these so it'd be a little easier. I also plan on adding for an eraser like a little piece of felt, and so I will have to do that when I get back to school as well. But there are like tracing, and there's a dot there for where they start. And so there's squares, there's lines, there's circles, there's X's, and there's straight lines down, some crosses. So lots of different choices for them to do in there too. And so then they can just erase it, and it will be ready for the next kiddo. Now, I do want to note just real quickly that I will be teaching my children how to use these boxes. And so that means what it looks like when we need to wipe down a card, what it looks like to put the lids back on. Doesn't mean this will always happen, but I want to model for them so that they can be successful and we can keep them nice for as long as possible, and kind of show them how to open and close, because that's fine motor in itself with these great tabs. So I did want to mention that I will be going over how to use them, and probably will not be releasing all of them at once, because I don't want the overwhelm, and just, you know, kids will sometimes mix things up, and I really want these to be something for them to practice with, and not something that is going to make my life that much harder. So there's that, and then I also chose to do some paths. So here is the paths box, and inside, just like the tracing one, I decided to go with some, and I like the mini. You wouldn't have to use the mini, but I just like it because I feel like it fits in their little hands better, just like the golf pencil. So that's why I love these. But these are just paths. So they look like a maze, right? But there is no like maze component to it. There is no like, how do you get to the end? But their job is to stay in between the black lines to get from one object to the other. And as you can see, they get a little bit harder. There's some that are a little bit longer, some that have curved lines, some that have straight jagged lines. And so like this one is actually quite, oh, it's upside down. This one is actually quite more difficult. And so they can kind of go through, and if you're assigning this to one particular child, or you want to bring them over, you might just beforehand pull out the ones that you think might be a little too much, and just kind of see where they go from there. You very much can change them up based on need, which is awesome. And so that's the paths. And then we'll do some pre-writing here. So this one really is something that some of my children absolutely just love to do, is just sit and trace letters and numbers. So again, I went ahead and laminated these so it would be easier for more students to use them without me having to refill them. And it's got numerals, and it's got letters in it. And so again, if I am sitting down with one child doing this, I may want to choose which cards we work on, because obviously we don't want them to have to do all of these, but they're in there. I also plan on just letting some during a free choice time, just letting them choose which ones they want to do. Maybe they'll find their letter or the letter of their friends, but we certainly would not be doing all of them during one session or even multiple sessions, because I want these to be engaging. I want them to be fun, and I want them to enjoy it. And so if this is not something that they're yet excited or ready for, then I may stick to the other tasks first. Okay, another fun one that I think they are going to love is the hole punch. And so this hole punch one, I actually found a hole punch on Amazon that is much easier to manipulate. My one at school, they're metal, they're hard on your hands, and I had put my one from school, just the basic metal ones that you have, and I put it out in the art center, and it just caused more frustration than it was worth. And so I knew when I did this hole punching activity, there was no way that they could use that without a ton of frustration. And so that's why I went ahead and got this one, and it is much easier to grab. And so basically what they're doing is they're going to grab a card, and they're just going to punch through each one. So that's why the picture is down closer to the end, so that they can fit this in there and punch each one of those. So I have a feeling this is going to be super fun. They absolutely love like our heart punches and our star punches we have in the art center, but even those are a little bit harder. But I like that this one will be a repetitive open and squeeze, open and squeeze. I really wanted to find one that was a little bit smaller, that did not make their hands open up so wide, and I just wasn't able to do that. But I do love that at least it will squeeze down a little bit easier when they're getting their hands on it, and maybe not wear them out so fast that this becomes something they don't want to do. But I predict this to be a very, very favorite. Okay, some other things are stick mats. And so these stick mats are basically just ideas of what students could create with the colored craft sticks. Now I will stop and note that for each theme, there is a list of what you need for each theme in each box. And so you'll see where are they? Stick mats. So at the bottom, I needed 12 yellow sticks, 4 green sticks, 4 red, 5 brown, and 2 blue. And so the brown I just used the regular, right? And so that way I know how many that I need to put in there. I could put a couple extra if I need to. But if you're not concerned about what color they're making these and matching the color, then you don't even have to worry about it. Just throw some sticks in there, and away they go, right? So this one would be like a snowflake. So they're going to take the ones that they have, and they can either lay them on top, which these should match up pretty well, or they can just lay them on the table and create it. It's however they want to do it. But there's several task cards in here. There's snowflake, mitten, a mug of hot cocoa. There is a sled. This one also tried to get eaten by the laminator. He's a little polar bear, and a little snowman. So just a way to try to get them to use those fine motor muscles to line things up. This one might be a little bit more frustrating. So look through them first, because some of them are just, you're lining them up. But others where you're stacking them layers on top of each other might be a little more difficult, and you might want to pull this out if it is, if you suspect it might be too difficult for the kiddo you're working with. So pretty simple there, but they just are having to line them up and maybe stack them on top of each other. And that takes that precision, and it takes obviously their hand not wiggling a whole bunch. And so that's some great fine motor practice right there. So stick mats. Also, we have Build It. And I love this for more reasons than just the fine motor. But I got these on I got them on Amazon. I have some at school, but I didn't have like enough of every color that I wanted. And so I like these because they make a sound. I don't know. Let's see if you can hear it. Kind of hear it. There we go. And you know, who doesn't, that's satisfying in itself, right? And I like that you have to break them apart and then when you're putting them back together. So they are using those fine motor muscles to really push these back together. Now, when I created these, I wanted to make sure that each card that the kiddos were given, enough of those colors could fit in here. And so I can fit pretty much like 36 blocks in here, but no more. So they can create one of these and then take it all apart and create a new one. So here's a shovel, an igloo, a tree with some snow on it. Oh, wait, sorry, that's a mitten or a hat. Gracious, good gravy. A hat and also an igloo. And I think I might have had some missing. They may be in the to be laminated pile. That pile is never ending as you're to laminate. I've got this pile that's like to be laminated and it feels like it never ends. But I like this because not only are they using fine motor, they're using their spatial relationship skills to figure out, and their counting skills. One here and then a black one next. So how many on bottom? And there's a lot more than just fine motor going into this, but I absolutely love that it's self-contained and they can have all the colors that they need to create these. So I'm gonna set that one aside because I'm pretty sure I have some in the laminating pile. Okay. Also, another one that I think they will love is the bead work. So this one, see that? They're going to choose a card, fill in each circle by placing the bead inside. And so this is pretty simple. And again, you wouldn't have to match the colors each time if you didn't want to. You know, kiddos, they love to be creative, and so they may not want to match it anyway, and that's fine. But the goal is mainly just to place those beads on the card within the circle. There's some more of them under here. And using this grasp right here, there's no other way to grasp this, right? They cannot whole hand this and put it on to the paper. And so they're being forced by using these itty bitty pony beads to use a pincer grasp. So that is why I chose this one and these little tiny beads, because they're having to do little tiny work with it. And then there's a mitten, snowball, hat, icicles, snowflake, two different types of snowflakes. So I predict that these will be awesome too. I bought a pretty big bag of beads because I know that these will be dropped on the floor and find their way under some cabinet that I will have to sweep out later. So I just want to make sure I had more on hand. But that is beadwork. Another one is tongs. Tongs are always super fun. And so there's Tong task cards. There's also this little alligator dude. These are great pinchers because they do pick these up pretty easily, but they're not going to be too big for their hand, which some of them I feel like are. And then I also had some that when you would push them, they would, I don't know if you can see that, they would kind of slip next to each other and get super frustrating. And so these, I like that they're small enough that they keep their shape. So they have different cards and they have the puffballs. And again, this material list tells you which ones you might want to grab, which colors you might want to grab. Again, you don't have to do certain colors if you didn't want to, but mainly there are picking up a puffball and laying it on top. And again, they don't have to match them. They can make their own on the table if they wanted to, if that felt easier to them at first. And so like this snowflake one might be a little bit frustrating because there's a lot of them. So they may start with something like this snowman face. There's a mug. This one has less puffballs, so it might be a little bit easier. A little skate and a mitten and a hat. So that one, pretty fun too, just trying to fill up that whole picture full of puffy balls. All right, I've got about 4 more. Another one is hole poking. And this one, I decided to use golf tees. I know a lot of people use like push pins, but I did not feel confident in that, at least as of right now with some of my students. So I wanted to just go ahead and use these. I feel like they're about the size of their golf pencil, so this works well for practicing that grip too. But basically what I did was I cut a rectangle the same size as the card. And this is just from an Amazon box, which we all know we got plenty of those. And so they're just going to lay it on top of there. Again, this is another one that you're going to have to show them, and they can poke through. And it kind of, like when it hits the cardboard, I love it because it kind of reminds me of popping bubble wrap. And so I have a strong feeling that I'm going to have kiddos that it has that same satisfying effect to it. And so they can just go around and punch it out. And then what's cool is they'll have their design also on the piece of cardboard. So if they want to keep this, I'm going to let them, but you know, they always could use the same one again. They can flip it over. I've got some extras down on the bottom for them, and just some fine motor practice there. And this one has things like an igloo, a hat. There's some more hats, a boot, and let's see, a shovel, and a mitten, and is that it? That might be it. So, oh wait, there's this one too that I think that they will probably gravitate towards. Cute little snow globe. So just different designs that they can do. And then I also plan on showing them that if they hold this up to the light, they can see all their holes they made and things like that. So I think this one's going to be a fun hit as well. Hole poking. This one is a little bit more on the educational side, but I did decide to bring in links. Many of you probably have these in your classroom. I did not have any, and so I wanted to make sure. I went on Amazon and got some. They were pretty darn cheap, but they're just little plastic links, and normally they're just used for children to make long linked I don't know, snakes or necklaces or whatever they would like to make with them. And so I decided to make this more into a game. And so this has some counting with it. It is more of the matching numeral to quantity. And so again, I can adapt this. I can take out how many matches are in here. And I can also take out which numerals, right? If they need help with numerals 6 through 10, then I'll pull out the other ones and have them do those. But basically what their goal is to link together, and so they're having to put it in the paper and flip it around. I'm not sure you saw that. I think I was out of the camera view there. So they're having to take their little link here, stick it in there, and then connect it to another card. And I probably need to add more links to this so that if they wanted to add it, make it like a long little set, they could, and then connect the number 2 to it. So they're having to put it in and pull it through. So kind of a multi-step thing there, but they're linking the number 2 and the numeral 2 and the quantity of 2. So pretty simple, but again, it's kind of taking these 2 hands together, working with our eyes to thread it through. All right, I have 2 more. Okay, this one is pattern blocks, and many of you probably have pattern blocks in your classroom. I went ahead and actually got some transparent ones. I had been wanting them for a long time for my light table, and so I thought, well, now's the time, because they also work good with these task cards because you can see through what you're supposed to be matching it up to. So like this one is a snowman, and he would add 2 hexagons and 2 squares, and so they're just matching it up again, if you want to have them do it on the table, that's going to be a little bit harder, right? Because they're not going to be able just to lay it on top. But I love that this not only is fine motor, trying to line them up and trying to make them all stay in the place they want them to, but it's also looking at a lot of geometry skills like flipping and turning. And so having to figure out how these pieces fit together. So that is, I can't see that very well, but that is a pretty easy one. You probably have pattern blocks in your classroom, or if you're like me and you wanted these clear ones, you just found a good excuse because it came with quite a few, and the rest of them I'm going to use on my light table. But this comes with a snowman, a big snowflake, a mug, a different snowflake, a little penguin. Here's his little beak and his little wings, and a hat, and that's all of them. So they can kind of go through that. And then this is another one that when I change the theme, they will get to have different things to build. And so I think that will help it stay engaging. And the last one is the Play-Doh one. Even my kiddos who are 9 and going on 13 wanted to play with the Play-Doh. Play-Doh is just fun, right? And so I found these tiny little ones. They are, I think they're the 1 ounce, if I recall. Yeah, they're the 1 ounce Play-Doh. They're like used for party favors and stuff like that. But I found them on Amazon and they fit inside these. I mean, granted, it's not fabulous, but it fits. And so you can fit 6 different little tubs in here. And so I put these in here, and I realize with COVID, this may not be something that you can do yet, but it could be something you could save for later. Or this came with a ton of them. So maybe you just give the kiddo 1 or 2, and that's their Play-Dohs to do this activity with. And you just kind of forget about the colors or whatnot. But so this one you can make a mug with hot cocoa in it. You can make a hat. You can make, oops, upside down. You can make earmuffs. You can make a mitten. You can make an adorable snowman face. And you can make a penguin. And so basically they just roll the dough into long snakes or balls and lay them on top to kind of make it look 3D. It's pretty fun. My personal kiddos had a lot of fun doing that. So that one is Play-Doh because we know that Play-Doh is always a great way to bring in some fine motor, but this way they kind of have a task to go with it. And so that is all 16 of them. Oh, there's the puppies. Gabby is super mad. If you've been around, you've seen Gabby, and Gabby gets mad when she can't be in the videos with me, but you know, to his life. Okay, so let me switch over here real fast. All right, perfect. So I hope that was like a helpful run through for you because I am like super excited about these because I think that they are going to be engaging and fun, and I think that they're going to be easy enough for me to maintain. So some good news, if you want to try these are going to be 30% off today, that's Sunday, and tomorrow, Monday, and I've got 3 available right now. More are on the way for spring and fall, and I hope that by changing out the theme, it will create interest all over again, and these won't be a one and done because that's not something I wanted them to be. And so if you want to, the link is in the comment. If you want to check them out, you can get them for 30% off today and tomorrow. And if you have any questions at all, please drop them in the comments because I would love to share with you. And then I will be probably adding here pretty soon some pictures from my students using these, not of my students, but in my own classroom using these and kind of giving an update on how they worked and what was working best. So thank you for joining me. I hope that you found this intriguing. Maybe you found some of your own ideas to incorporate for fine motor. And I will see you next week. Bye-bye.